Classic Rock Fans, my first Patron podcast of 2022, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about this album, R.E.M's New Adventures in Hi-Fi. This is their fifth album after signing for the Warner Brothers label, and signing for the Warner Brothers label for a huge wad of cash, by the way. Although I'm sure Warner Brothers have more than made their money back off them. Losing My Religion was a huge song for them, off the Out of Time album. And Automatic for the People, I mean, that one went absolutely stratospheric. Everyone was listening to that 24 hours a day, if I remember correctly, when that came out, including myself. Then there was the Monster album, which seemed like very much sonically a step away from the soft acoustic lush textures of the previous two albums, to get very abrasive, loud on us. One that saw, of course, that tour saw the leaving of Bill Berry, who almost died of a brain aneurysm. However, this album is the last album recorded with Bill Berry, and for many it's seen as the last great album by this band. I don't agree, to be honest with you. I really like the album Up. I know R.E.M. effectively become a three-piece after this record, but I really did like Up, and it's one that's firmly rooted in a certain place for me as I was listening to that. When I listen to it, I'm reminded of certain people and where I was, and as music should take you back. But this album is a fascinating record. It's a fascinating record because it was written on the road. It's not an album about being on the road. It's an album that explores the atmospheres and textures and feelings of being on the road rather than the subject matter. For this album, this band become the Jack Kerouac of geek rock. For me, my favourite R.E.M. album is Green, I think. Automatic for the People is a wonderful, wonderful album, but it's one that's been, for me, suffers from being overplayed way too much. But this one is interesting. It's quite alienating. It deals with themes of alienation and dislocation in a way, the idea of just being away from home. And it's an album that just meanders further and further away from our comfort zones, very much like the cover art itself, which is a snapshot of Route 95 through Nevada, I believe. Then you get that strange picture of what is known as like a mound, Inselberg, that very much speaks of this album and speaks of the music on this album, and R.E.M. in general. In fact, you have to really sort of mine this different stratas of nuance and texture to really appreciate this band. The cover art, of course, is very much about taking us on a journey with this band. It's sprawling, dreamlike at times as well. It has this almost somnambulant quality about some of these numbers. Mark Blackwell says this is ultimately an album about escape, and he's not wrong either. Of course, the very last line in the very last song on this album is "I'm out of here," and that seems to be reflected in a lot of these numbers. And this record has a very cobbled together feel. These were songs that were written on the road and often performed and recorded during sound checks. It does have that itinerant, nomadic feel to it. For me, it's a very murky travelogue recorded when this band were on the road, and ironically speaks of the need to escape. I mean, the first track, How the West Was Won and Where It Got Us, is essentially all about conflict, I think. The Wake Up Bomb is kind of explodes after the hushed atmosphere of the previous number. New Test Leper is one of my favourite numbers on this album. It just pulsates with this brooding atmosphere it creates. Of course, it's referencing Patti Smith as well as Lou Reed. Of course, Patti Smith sung Jesus Died for Somebody's Sins But Not Mine, and Lou Reed had written Jesus Help Me Find My Proper Place. Michael Stipe said he wanted to kind of insert himself within that specific idiom of talking about his relationship with Christ. Undertow is very self-explanatory, as it's an album about needing to get away, I think, or to get to a place of safety. I mean, he's screaming in this song, "I'm drowning." It says it all, really, doesn't it? Ebo the Letter is about a letter that was written, never sent. I read somewhere that Michael Stipe wrote a letter to River Phoenix, but never sent it, obviously, because River Phoenix passed away. River Phoenix's death and Michael Stipe's grief is touched upon in River on the Automatic for the People album, in the same way that Michael Stipe's anguish over Kurt Cobain's death is beautifully profiled in the song off Monster, Let Me In. Departure is a song about grieving. Of course, grieving can be a multifaceted thing. Binky the Doormat is very much about loving someone who's not really in your orbit. I think Low Desert is a song written about the American West. Interesting, dark, brooding textures created on this record. It's a fine album, an album that's inspired by sheer terror, I think, of the bombast and the size of the Monster Tour. Perhaps the need to escape that. I mean, you get the song Leave, you get that siren that just sounds all the way through it, which is unnerving to say the least. Although it is without a doubt a bit of a ramshackle affair, I rather like this album. In fact, it's perhaps one of my favourites. It would certainly be in the top 3 or 4 albums by them. Anyway, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on R.E.M, what your thoughts or memories are of them, and what your thoughts are on this specific album. I saw R.E.M live on the Up tour. Of course, Bill Berry had already departed. My presiding memory of that concert was them performing Driver 8, which was a delight. Anyway, this is my first Patreon podcast for this year. I want to wish you all a happy new year, and thank you all for supporting the sterling work done here at Classic Album Review. Just leaves me to say, I hope you're well, staying warm as it's getting a bit chilly out there, but more importantly that you keep listening.